Imagine biting into a raw green lemon peel or chewing on a fresh aspirin tablet. Your immediate involuntary reaction is to spit it out. Your face contorts, your salivary glands tighten, and a wave of revulsion washes over you. This is not just a personal dislike. It is a primal reflex wired into your brain. For hundreds of thousands of years, this physiological rejection has been one of our most vital evolutionary assets. Bitterness is the chemical signature of poison. It is how our ancestors survived a hostile world filled with toxic flora, avoiding the lethal alkaloids that hide in wild berries, dark leaves, and woody roots. When your taste buds detect bitterness, your amygdala lights up with warning signs, preparing your body to purge. Yet, if you travel across Southeast Asia, you will find millions of people doing the exact opposite. They are not merely tolerating bitterness, they are actively seeking it out, elevating it, and celebrating it as the centerpiece of their meals. From the volcanic soils of Indonesia to the river basins of Thailand, bitterness is not a culinary mistake. It is a deliberate choice, a prized flavor profile that anchors the daily diet. To understand why, we have to look at the interface between human biology and the geography of the tropics. The human tongue is equipped with around 25 different types of bitter taste receptors, known scientifically as T2R receptors. By comparison, we only have one type of receptor for sweetness. This evolutionary imbalance highlights just how dangerous the natural world once was. A sweet taste meant energy, carbohydrates, and calories. A bitter taste meant potential death. But in Southeast Asia, the natural environment presented a unique biological challenge. The region's hot, humid climate is a breeding ground for insect pests, fungi, and herbivores. Because the growing season never stops, plants in these ecosystems are engaged in a constant chemical arms race. To survive, they produce bitter compounds, alkaloids, terpenoids, and saponins, to discourage anything from eating them. The rainforests of Borneo, Sumatra, and the highlands of Thailand are hotspots of botanical biodiversity, which also makes them hotspots of plant-based chemical warfare. If the early inhabitants of these lands had rejected every bitter plant, they would have ignored a massive portion of the available biomass. Survival required a shift in strategy. While other primates developed specialized stomachs or simply avoided these plants, humans took a different path. We could not afford to be passive gatherers. We had to become botanical chemists. By utilizing fire, fermentation, and cooking techniques, our ancestors learned to tame these compounds. They learned how to distinguish between plants that were genuinely lethal and those that were simply defensive. Over thousands of years, this survival strategy evolved into a sophisticated culinary and medicinal tradition. In the tropical heat, where food spoils quickly and waterborne pathogens thrive, these bitter plants turned out to possess powerful antimicrobial, antiparasitic, and digestive properties. What began as a biological warning system was transformed into a regional baseline of flavor. Bitterness became synonymous with safety, health, and vitality. This brings us to the actual foods that define the Southeast Asian palate. While outsiders might be familiar with the bumpy, green gourd known as bitter melon, called ampalaya in the Philippines or mara in Thailand, it is only the entry point into a vast botanical catalog of bitterness. Consider the neem tree, known in Thailand as Sadao and in Cambodia as Stao. Its young leaves and flowers possess an intense medicinal bitterness that can be overwhelming to the uninitiated. In Thailand, these bitter sprigs are harvested during the cool, dry season and served as Sadao Nam Plawan. The bitter flowers are blanched and paired with grilled catfish and a sweet, sticky dipping sauce made from tamarind paste, fish sauce, and palm sugar. The bitterness of the leaf acts as a crucial culinary counterweight. Without it, the oily richness of the fish and the intense sweetness of the tamarind would quickly saturate the palate, making the meal feel heavy and cloying. The bitter element cleanses the tongue, cutting through the grease and resetting the taste buds for the next bite. It acts like a palate cleanser between courses, but built directly into the dish itself. Further south, in Indonesia and Malaysia, you encounter Daun Pepaya, the leaves of the papaya plant. Naturally tough and intensely bitter, these leaves are carefully prepared, sometimes boiled with clay or guava leaves to draw out the harshest bitter compounds, before being stir-fried with garlic, shallots, and chili, or simmered in a rich coconut milk curry called gulai daun pepaya. Here, the fat of the coconut milk coats the tongue, creating a physical barrier that slows down the absorption of the bitter compounds by the taste buds. It transforms a harsh, jarring taste into a smooth, lingering warmth. In the northern mountainous regions of the mainland and throughout the rural interior, you find an even more extreme embrace of this flavor profile. In the Philippines, particularly in the Ilocos region, cooks prepare a famous soup called papaitan. The name itself comes from the word pate, meaning bitter. The source of this bitterness is not a plant, but animal bile, specifically the green fluid extracted from the gallbladders of goats or cattle. Simmered with innards, ginger, garlic, and sour calamansi juice, the bile imparts a deep, metallic bitterness that cuts through the gamey richness of the offal. In Myanmar, you find Ket Hin Ka Thi Thok, a bitter melon salad where the thinly sliced gourd is salted to reduce its sharpness, then tossed with fried garlic oil, toasted chickpea flour, sesame seeds, and fresh lime juice. The result is a complex dance of crunchy, nutty, sour, and bitter notes that stands as a staple of Burmese home cooking. Even the drinks reflect this preference. In Indonesia, the ancient tradition of Jamu, herbal medicine, remains a cornerstone of daily wellness. Street vendors, traditionally women carrying heavy baskets on their backs, sell a variety of tonics. The most famous of these is Jamu Pahitan, named for its extreme bitterness. Made from the leaves of the sambiloto plant, known as the king of bitters, this dark brew is consumed daily by millions of people to treat fevers, prevent infections, and cleanse the blood. It delivers a sharp sensory shock to the tongue, but it is often followed by a sweet ginger chaser, reinforcing the connection between bitter medicine and sweet relief. These dishes and drinks reveal the fundamental rule of Southeast Asian culinary architecture. Bitterness is never eaten in isolation. It is treated as one instrument in a complex orchestra. European culinary traditions often seek to mask or eliminate bitterness, treating it as a defect to be bred out of vegetables like Brussels sprouts. Southeast Asian cuisine, by contrast, treats bitterness as a vital structural component. It operates like the bass line in a song, providing depth, contrast, and balance to the high notes of sweet, sour, salty, and spicy. This culinary preference is supported by a deep-rooted physiological reality. When bitter compounds hit the T2R receptors on the back of your tongue, they send a signal to your brain that triggers the release of saliva, bile, and gastric juices. This reaction, known as the bitter reflex, primes the stomach for digestion. In hot, humid climates, where appetite can flag due to the oppressive heat, a bitter starter or side dish acts as a physiological engine, jump-starting the digestive system and ensuring that nutrients are absorbed efficiently. Furthermore, many of these plants contain compounds that served as historical medicine. The kasut tree, whose bitter leaves are used in the classic Thai curry kayang kalek, contains an alkaloid called barakol, which has natural sedative and anxiety-reducing properties. Because these leaves are toxic in high doses, Thai cooks traditionally boil them multiple times, discarding the water each time until only the safe, pleasant bitterness remains. Other bitter herbs are rich in compounds that combat malaria and intestinal parasites, constant threats in tropical river valleys. When people consume these foods regularly from childhood, their brains undergo a process of sensory recalibration. What was once a warning signal of poison becomes associated with the physical feeling of relief, digestion, and energy. The brain rewrites the meaning of the taste. The aversion fades, replaced by a craving. The bitter taste becomes an acquired preference, a sign of comfort and home. But to truly understand why this flavor profile is so deeply embedded in Southeast Asia, we have to look past biology and chemistry. We have to look at language, philosophy, and shared identity. Across many cultures in the region, the word for bitter is tied directly to the concept of suffering and endurance. In the languages influenced by Chinese and Sanskrit, there is a profound cultural overlap between physical taste and life experience. To eat bitter is a common metaphor for enduring hardship, working through adversity, and showing resilience in the face of struggle. In this context, the act of eating bitter foods is not just a culinary habit. It is a daily, physical ritual of character building. Parents encourage their children to eat bitter greens not just because they are healthy, but because learning to appreciate the taste is seen as a sign of maturity. It is a lesson in patience. If you cannot tolerate the bitterness of a leaf, how will you tolerate the inevitable bitterness of life? This cultural acceptance of bitterness creates a shared identity across Southeast Asia, bridging the gaps between Buddhist, Islamic, and Christian communities in the region. Whether it is Papaitan in the Christian northern Philippines, Jamu in Muslim Java, or Sadao in Buddhist Thailand, the shared appreciation of bitterness highlights a common ecological history. By consuming these ingredients, people are participating in a shared cultural narrative of resilience. The bitter taste is a tangible reminder that discomfort is temporary, and that sweetness, health, and success are only achieved by enduring the difficult stages first. This cultural philosophy is beautifully illustrated by the regional names and traditions associated with these plants. In Vietnam, the bitter gourd is called co qua. In the local language, ko means suffering, and qua means to pass or overcome. During the Lunar New Year, families across the country serve stuffed bitter gourd soup. The dish is an edible pun. By eating the bitter melon, you are symbolically eating your past struggles, ensuring that the hardships of the old year will pass, paving the way for a sweet and prosperous new year. Ultimately, the Southeast Asian relationship with bitter foods is a triumph of human adaptation. It shows how a species can take a hardwired biological defense mechanism, a warning signal designed to keep us alive by keeping us away, and transform it into something beautiful. They did not run away from the hostile chemistry of the jungle. Instead, they built a culinary system that balanced it, a traditional medical system that harnessed it, and a philosophy that elevated it. The next time you taste something bitter, your biology might tell you to spit it out. But in Southeast Asia, that bitter note is an invitation to slow down, to digest, to endure, and to appreciate the complex harmony of life.